Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today, as well from to the stream today. I'm really thankful to see everyone here. So for today's stream, I think that the setting is that you have to be a subscriber to like message in the chat. I'm not sure, but if so, you just have to like, well, I would appreciate if you could subscribe as well. But if you are confused how to, you just have to click the little um bell button. So and then it will like automatically subscribe you. Thank you so much for your support too. And also it's helpful to subscribe because it'll immediately notify you when there's another stream or like another video that will come up. So it's really helpful in case you want to like attend or join. So yeah, and hello, Radioactive EMP. So for everyone watching, Radioactive EMP is my friend Rai, and he'll help me today with like just moderating the chat and um discussing with things. So thank you so much for coming to help, and it's really appreciated. So I also wanted to say for anyone watching, if you have any questions or comments, like anytime, feel free to just message anytime in the chat as well, and let me know about anything you'd like to talk about or ask or comment on. So I guess thank you so much. So today, the topic I was thinking about to discuss is kind of like the importance of like food in Shinto and Konko. Oh, hi Inazu-san, hello. Thank you for coming. I'm still getting used to like just straight live streaming because I'm used to like so for people who don't know, I also do like meetings, like Zoom meetings kind of on this platform called Discord. And on those meetings, like everyone is kind of talking together and or like, we can discuss. So I don't feel so nervous. But here on YouTube, it's just kind of like, just me at the camera and to talk. So I get kind of nervous about it. But thank you so much for coming and being here with me. I really appreciate it. But yeah, so today's topic I wanted to talk about was I'll write it down in the chat, the importance of food in Shinto and Konko Faith. So I'll also give the Konko Faith perspective because it's what I'm most familiar with. But I'll try to give perspectives of like other faiths as well within Shinto. But it's something I've been thinking about a lot, and especially recently. It's kind of like a coincidence, but like I was watching TV the other day, and I saw on the TV that there was like a really bad like a drought. Like it hadn't been raining for a while, and that's pretty normal for. Oh, hi Terrence, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. And yeah, that's pretty normal for wintertime that it doesn't really rain and it's pretty dry. But it was a little bit abnormal too because there at least is a little bit of rain. So what they were showing on the news here was that there was like a farmer and like all of his crops were like they didn't grow at all. And he was trying to grow daikon, and he showed the camera, like the daikon was all like the inside was all spongy and it was all like ruined and like all messed up. So it was like really bad. And he was like, yeah, this year, like, I'm not sure what we're gonna do because the crops aren't growing and there's not enough rain. And of course, they have like waterworks, like you can just like use sprinklers or like hose and stuff to water the crops, but it's also kind of like very difficult to like keep that managed, and like the cost of using all that water is really expensive. So the farmer was kind of put in a difficult position, and it kind of made me just think about how like of course modern times it's so easy to access food. Oh, welcome, daughter of the kami. Hello, thank you for coming. So yeah, it got me thinking like nowadays we're so accustomed to be able to access food very easily. Like not only do we have like grocery stores, of course, but it's also very easy to access food through like like delivery services and like Uber Eats or like in here in Japan Demaikan and stuff like that. So it's really easy to just like order food anytime and just it immediately comes to you all cooked and ready to serve. And of course, we've got grocery stores and farmers markets, and like you can import food like from like online, like Amazon too. Like you can order in groceries or fruits and like instant meals. So like food, if you're living in like a pretty reasonable situation, like you have enough money from a job or like something to like purchase food in your daily areas, it's not that hard to access food. So I feel like a lot of us kind of just think of food as like, like the majority I'm speaking, just kind of think of food as like it's a given, I guess. Like I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't think about like like where does food come from, or like how rare it is pretty much in our modern age, like how we can eat um, food just very easily. Also, hi May, welcome. Thank you for coming from the Discord. So like how do I put this? So like for example, a lot of people nowadays, they think about like what kind of food am I gonna eat, and about eating healthier versus like having food in and of itself. And I even know like people, because like for me, like I didn't grow up very with a lot of money. We had to rely on like cheaper foods, like canned foods and like frozen foods. So that's also like a thing, like a situation people live through, and I've lived through it. But even then, like when it's more difficult to buy healthier foods or fresher foods, the availability of those canned foods and those frozen foods was still like just like a 5 minute walk up to the grocery store, or like just going quickly by the car. So even though we didn't have a lot of money, the accessibility and the availability of inexpensive food was there in our modern times, even if it wasn't like the freshest or like the healthiest or the most organic. It still existed. So that's kind of like the point I was thinking about, especially seeing the farmer losing his harvest. And of course, thank you. I'm still like kind of getting used to life, so I'm a little bit like nervous, but so I'm just really thankful you're here, and I really really appreciate it. Thank you so much. But yes. So yeah, so like why I was thinking about this is that like something I've been thinking about recently is that, oh, hi Vadim-san, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate you coming. Especially I know that you were just here from Masumi Sensei's stream, and it might be like tiring to watch like long streams. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. Yes. But yeah, I was just thinking like, not that, sorry, like something I've been want to talk about for a long time is that like I feel like Shinto traditions and like festivals. I said this before, but a lot of them are based around like the harvest season, and I don't think it's just about that. I think it's also about like the importance of food and how it relates to life. I'm not sure if I'm articulating this well, but I'm just trying to like go through the thoughts as I talk. But basically, like for example, like the calendar year of festivals, and this is also true for Konko Faith. It starts with New Year's, so we give thanks for the new year and pray for a good year ahead. Then the next major festival after New Year is like the equinox, the spring equinox, and that's when we give thanks to and remember the ancestors and those who have gone before us. And the reason it's in the equinoxes, like the spring and the autumn, for the ancestor remembrance, I used to think that this was related to Buddhism, and that like it had nothing to do with like the indigenous like religious practices of Japan. But it turns out this is actually older than Buddhism, and it comes from the idea that like when people die, they become ancestral kamisama, and the ancestral kamisama don't like go somewhere else. They stay like in this natural world, but they go into like the forest, like into nature, or in, as they say, like in the mountains in Japan, because in Japan, like mountain, like yama, is synonymous with the forest. So like when you say yama no naka, or like in the mountains, it means like in the woods. So there was like this idea, like the Mitama no Kami-sama were like in the yama no naka, like in the mountain forest, and then like down in the village, like people would just like live and farm in the village on the flatlands. So the idea was that like every equinox, the ancestors would come down from the mountains, from the forest, and like stay with their descendants in the village for like that day, and then the villagers and the people would like remember their ancestors and like give thanks to them. And this is called like ohigan or higan, and also like shubu no hi, shuki no hi, like just the first day of spring, the first day of autumn. So that was kind of like the traditional like remembrance day for the ancestors, and so we still like continue that tradition. And nowadays in Japan, like people go to the grave site, like they do a gravesite visit, and then here in the Konko Faith, we do the gravesite visit, and then we do a ceremony, like a big ceremony here in the Ohiromai, in the worship hall. So it's like really nice for those days. And I know that not all like it's like a holiday celebrated across Japan. But because like Buddhism kind of took over the like association with death and ancestors, it's more kind of become like a Buddhist holiday in Japan. But there is some like other shrines, especially ones that have like ancestral shrines or a soreisha, like ancestral shrine. I'll write down the kanji. They also do like a ceremony on the equinox days at the soreisha. So that is like it's also done at those shrines that have a soreisha for the ancestors. So after New Year's, we move into the spring equinox, and then we uh, honor the ancestors, and that is the next big Matsuri. And I forgot to say, because we just finished Setsubun, and Setsubun is celebrated at shrines and temples, but it's not really like a Shinto, as in like indigenous Japanese tradition, nor is it even like really a Buddhist holiday. It's more like, okay, don't worry, May, take care. Thank you so much for coming. um, okay, oh my god, I hope you're okay. I pray everything will be okay. Please don't worry. Yes. Take care of yourself, and I hope that everything will be okay at your family. Yes, thank you so much. Let me know what happens too in the Discord later. Okay, thank you. Bye. Yes. Mm. But but yes, so Setsubun is not really like a religious or like spiritual rooted holiday. It's more like, well, it comes from like Onmyodo, so it's kind of religious, spiritual. Um, but it's not part of Shinto or Buddhism. So both of them kind of celebrate it at the shrine and the temple. But it's kind of like it came from Onmyodo beliefs, and then it became like cultural. And then because it was cultural, like the shrines and temples kind of celebrate it, but also in family homes. So it's interesting like that. So yeah, I don't. But Setsubun is not really like related to like the ancestral spirits or like any kind of religious topic or spiritual topic really. It's again like we talked about last time. It's more related to like the directions and like the bad energy, bad luck, and like Konjin sama, Konjin sama's influence and the Oni's influence. But it's more kind of like a celebration to welcome the spring season coming, and also just like push away the bad luck and welcome in the new spring season, the new year feelings, and that kind of cultural celebration. But as for New Year's and as for the ancestral ceremonies, these involve more like prayers to Kami-sama, to the Mitama no Kami-sama. So it's a little bit like different feeling. And it's more like focused on like the traditional worldview of like Kami-sama in everything and in our ancestors as well. Like, because when we pass away, we are recognized as Kami-sama. So it's like all connected to that kind of worldview, if that makes sense. So yes, so after that New Year's spring equinox, then after that so we have, wait, let me think. Yeah, so April, nothing really kind of happens, but in May, or no, well, let me rephrase that. So like in sometime in April or May, like around springtime, a lot of festivals and ceremonies happen, and they're all related, like at the core, they're related to the rice planting season. So like when the weather starts to get warmer and more moisture comes in the soil, that's when the time like it's good to start to plant the rice seedlings. And basically these like ceremonies, like either it's the spring grand ceremony, there's some other ceremonies I can't remember, but like every shrine kind of has their own unique ceremonies. But all of them will have like a spring grand ceremony. And this ceremony is meant to like pray for a good planting season, for the planting season to go well, and for the rice to grow well. So this is like a super big important ceremony. And the next big ceremony is related to purification. So the great purification oharai in the summertime, like around midsummer. Usually it's closer to the summer solstice, but it's not because of the solstice. It's because it's like the half point of the year. So it's kind of like, so we did the first 6 months of the calendar year, and now we're going to enter the next 6 months. So let's purify ourselves and like refresh ourselves for the next half of the year. That's kind of the meaning of oharai. Even though it coincides with the solstices, it's more just about that halfway point. So, you know, during that ceremony, there's a lot of purification rituals, like a lot of them rooted in like symbolism. So, for example, like the hitogata, like the little paper doll, like people like take it and like rub it across their body to kind of absorb the kegare, the negative energy, and then cast it away as if it's like taking, it's a substitute for them to take that negative energy and bring it away. And that's kind of like the oharai season, like the main purpose. And there's also like other traditions that happen, but that's another topic. I just kind of want to go more into like the food, the focus of food. But now during this time, like in terms of like rice harvest and rice planting, not much is happening. Just keeping an eye on the crops and see how they're growing, and hoping that they're growing well. Luckily, like around this time too, or like just before the oharai season, there's the rainy season or tsuyu. And this rainy season in Japan also helps the rice to grow really strong. So it's like a really important time. But it's like the belief is like the spring grand ceremony is like praying for the next phase of after the planting for things to go well too. So then after the oharai, we have the autumn grand ceremony. Well, okay, hold on. I'll rewind. So like after the oharai, there's usually like a lot of natsu matsuris, like summer festivals. And this is where like a lot of jinja like take the kami-sama like out of their jinja and the mikoshi so they can like parade around the neighborhoods. And like of course we don't do that in Konko Faith because like kami-sama is not like just in the shrine, like Tenchika no kami-sama, they're like everywhere. So we don't need to like bring kami-sama out and like bring them around town because Tenchika no kami-sama is like everywhere already. So, but for other jinja, like the kami-sama is in the shrine, like literally. So it's good to like bring them out on the mikoshi and kind of bring them around the neighborhood as a way to like kind of like feel kami-sama closer and like feel their blessings around the neighborhood that they're protecting. So, usually people go to the shrine to pray to kami-sama, but now it's like kami-sama's coming to the people in the summertime, and it's like a very like festive and like blessed feeling, like feeling like a good feeling, like a happy feeling. And that's why it's so like party and celebration, and like everyone's eating yummy foods and snacks and like wearing yukata and fireworks. It's like very like celebrating the good summertime, the warm summertime. And Vadim says, this month I finally bought Hina Ningyo to pray for girls' health during Hina Matsuri. Oh, that's so good. Oh, I'm so happy. I love Hina Matsuri too. Yes, Hina Matsuri too is also, that happens in March, like March 3rd, around springtime. And this one is also very cultural. It's not so much like, again, it's not so much spiritual religious, but it's more cultural to pray for the girls' health. And yeah, the dolls, they do have some basis in like traditional like Shinto symbolism and meaning, but really it's a holiday to just pray for girls to have good health, good life, and good days ahead. And the same happens around like May 5th. There's Boys' Day, and it's the same purpose, just praying for boys to grow up healthy and well. And that one also is more cultural, even though like shrines and even some temples can celebrate it, but it's more like the cultural side. So, but it's nice. I love those festivals too, and yeah, they're super cute, especially for Hina Matsuri. They have the big doll display, like all the like usually it's like a huge display with all the dolls up. Here we don't have the big display, but we do have a little music box style, and I want to put it up. So I'm gonna try to put it up this year. It'll be nice. But yeah, so yeah, we're talking about the summer festival, and that time of year is very like celebratory, and I think it also relates to the food calendar, because in summertime a lot of things are growing, like a lot of other crops, like maybe not rice, but for example, like lots of berries or like fruits. Maybe not all fruits, but some fruits are ready to grow in the summertime, and other crops like daikon and I'm trying to think of it. A lot of them grow when the weather gets warmer, and they're ready to be eaten when the weather gets warmer. So there's not really a lot of food scarcity in the summertime, or like the warmer months. It's more the colder months that it kind of gets harder for things to grow. Redeem-san says, I really like the old AN clothing on dolls. It's so nice to have. Sorry, let me read it again. So I just really like old AN clothing on dolls. So it's nice to have Hina Ningyo. I guess I agree. It's so nice. Yeah, so AN clothing, for those who don't know, it's like the old AN era clothes, which is like the layered kimono and the very like elaborate, big, colorful kimono, and like the girl wears like a sun crown, and then the man wears like kind of like a cap, like it's like a Shinto priest cap. It's like a formal noble's cap, and they have very big sleeves, and it's very beautiful. I wish I could send pictures. I have to figure. I have to start streaming with OBS so I can like add little pictures as I talk. But yeah, I love them so much. But so in the summertime, there's not so much food scarcity, but like when winter starts to come, the only thing that people could really eat was like root vegetables and rice. So, because rice you can store and other grains, so those can last over the winter time. But like fruits, like tomatoes. Well, I don't think they had tomatoes back then, but you know what I mean. Like most fruits and vegetables, when they grow in the warmer months, you can't keep them like all year round unless you ferment them. But even then, it's very like limited and difficult to like make sure that they be okay. And again, it's like very like you don't want to go through all your fermented and jarred foods over the wintertime. So really like the main staple that will get you through the harsh winter months is the grains, and especially rice, because rice is the main crop that can grow. So going into the next part of the year in the autumn time, this is the autumn grand ceremony, and this is basically like it connects to harvest time. So people will start to begin the process of harvesting, and to give thanks for the harvest is the autumn grand ceremony. It's I think they like oh sorry. Just in flat says, I imagine that's why rice is so sacred in Shinto. Yes. I'll get to that more, but it's part of the reason why. Yes, and but there's more to it. Like there's so much more deeper, but I'll get into it soon. And Ina-san says, is it in Shinto that kami-sama also aren't in the shrine all the time, but during the ceremony they're summoned, they'll hear the prayers. So for the Natsumatsuri, the kami-sama are welcome into. Oh, I think you gotta rate the next part. But yes. But yeah, so about the first part, oh sorry, are welcomed into Mikoshi and paraded around to bring blessings. Yes. So the thing is that, oh no, it's okay. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm not skipping ahead. But the thing about like, sorry, the thing, the thing is like going crazy. But during so the kamisama are like the shrine is like their house, and so the land is where they dwell, officially speaking. But during the ceremony, they're kind of like summoned as in like called to. So, that's why we do the clap and then the bell. Well, when you're praying regularly, you can ring the bell and clap. But even in the ceremony, like the priests will clap, and then that's kind of like calling the kamisama. But it's not that they're like kind of summoned there. It's just that kind of you're getting their attention. So, like the idea is that like they're always dwelling on that sacred land, and they're doing their sacred work from within the land. But then during the ceremony, you get their like attention more clearly. But it's not like one to one the same way with like humans. So it's kind of like a mix of like the kamisama is always there and dwelling there, but they can also be so many other places and like so many other shrines, of course. And then during the ceremony, when you clap, you get their attention, and you know for sure that they'll be there at the jinja, because that is their sacred land, that's their home. So it's kind of like that feeling. And for the Natsumatsuri, Kami-san, welcome to Mikoshi. Yes. So yeah, the Natsumatsuri, so it's like they leave their house or like the land, and then they go into the Mikoshi to go around the neighborhood. So it's kind of like, it's like, I know that it's not like one to one perfect explanation, because like of course kami-sama can go anywhere they want, but it's kind of like symbolic and like deeper meaning that like you're bringing like the whole of their energy from the sacred land, and bringing the energy of the sacred land and the kami-sama around the neighborhood to bring blessings. So it's kind of like that, like the more complex, detailed explanation. And yes, to entertain them, I guess so. Like I don't think people like I think it's like said like that, but it's not like you know to kind of like, how do I say, like it's, I don't think you're meaning this, but just so I'm clear for like everyone else too, like it's not to like appease them or like make them happy or else. It's like kind of like celebrating with everybody and bringing the kami-sama happiness, but in doing so, it brings the people happiness too. So it's kind of like reciprocal entertainment. So like the people are happy, they're entertained, kami-sama's happy and entertained. I think you probably know this already, but just like so I can explain for like other viewers if they don't familiar with if they're not familiar with it. And yes, well, thank you so much. Yes, yes, that's what I meant. Yes. Thank you. But yeah, like it's not like to, like, oh my gosh, we have to like make Kami-sama happy. It's just like Inazan said, like it's just to bring happiness to everyone. So I hope that made sense. But yes, exactly. And so yes, okay. So we got everything. Okay. But yes, thank you so much. But yes, so I was thinking that let me check something really quick. Um, so yes, so yeah, that's so okay. So there's the autumn grand ceremony, and that's to give thanks for the harvest. But you might have heard of another ceremony called Ninamesai, and the kanji for this is like this. Sorry, let me place it for you. So, but this one is special because it's not just the typical like giving thanks for the harvest. It's it's like from the emperor to both like for the emperor to harvest the rice and to give thanks for him to give thanks for the harvest as the emperor and on behalf of like the people of Japan to the kami-sama. So he's kind of like the emperor is kind of like the representative of all the people living in Japan, not just like Japanese people, but like everyone in his realm, basically, like his realm being the country of Japan, and being their representative to the kami-sama to give thanks for the rice. And this is important because it's kind of like how do I say this, like for him, for the emperor and the empress, their responsibility is to the country of Japan, to the people of Japan, for the Japanese people and the people living in Japan. So part of that responsibility is to do the correct etiquette and ceremonies to kami-sama. And part of that etiquette is to give thanks for the harvest, for the food that feeds all the people living in Japan. So this is very important responsibility for him to do. And it shows like respect to kami-sama. So it's showing like it's not like, how do I explain this? It's like saying that like the emperor is showing that he appreciates and is thankful to kami-sama for providing the blessings that allow all the people and society to survive. And we cannot survive without food, so that's why it's like a very important ritual. So Justin Flat says, does that liaison come from the idea of the divine lineage of the imperial family? Oh, this is a good question. So not this ceremony in particular. I want to say I remember this ceremony is actually quite old. So yes. So this ceremony is actually older before the Meiji era and before like the kind of more like intense idea of the Emperor of Japan. And it really comes more from the fact that the emperor is responsible and supposed to work on behalf of the people under his realm, his country, or her country if it was the empress. So it's kind of like how I explained, like the responsibility to give thanks to kami-sama for giving the blessings for the people and to the land, because he is the emperor. He is supposed to be the representative of all the people and the country and the culture. So it's kind of like that feeling of like, because like if he didn't do anything, it's kind of like really disrespectful to kami-sama, because it's like, oh well, like all the people are giving thanks but you're not giving thanks, and like you're in the position where you're supposed to be representing all the people. So it's kind of like that responsibility that he has to uphold. But it's not really like so particular about the lineage. But on that note as well, because it's said, like traditionally speaking, in the history of Japan, that it was Amaterasu Omikami-sama who gave the like blessing of rice farming to her descendant Ninigi no Mikoto-sama. So it was thanks to her that, and then thanks to Ninigi no Mikoto-sama, that people were able to farm rice to begin with in Japan, and thus build a society and thus survive into future generations. And because the idea that the imperial family is descended from Amaterasu Mikami-sama, that does add another layer to this to this ceremony, the Ninamesai, because it's also remembering that original, like the original story, the original tradition, where his ancestress taught his ancestor the technology, or like the purpose of rice farming, to grow society and to build society. So it's also showing respect to that lineage and history and ancestral meaning. So that's also very important as well, traditionally speaking and culturally speaking. The interesting thing is that, like, so like just going a little bit of like a side note is that, like, the thing is that a lot of people kind of get like I don't know how to explain it. Like they kind of get like not uncomfortable, but like it's a little bit confusing when you hear like, oh, the emperor is descended from Amaterasu Mikami-sama, because it's like divine lineage, But the thing is, like, I'm taking it back like from before the Meiji era, kind of like very like had its own kind of like way of explanation. But like before this point in time, it wasn't that like he was the only person, like it wasn't like the imperial family was the only family with divine lineage, because there was multiple families with divine lineage to Kami-sama, and ultimately as a whole, like all people are descended from Kami-sama. So it wasn't like only the imperial family was descended from divinity, but like everybody was, and everybody had their ancestral Kami-sama. And even outside of Japan, because this is where a lot of people misunderstand. The thing is that the story doesn't like exclude, like it doesn't say only Japan is divine. It just says that Japan and Japanese people are descended from the Kami. But it doesn't mean that like the other countries and the other people aren't. It's more that the other countries and other people are descended from their own kami-sama, like their own deities, their own ancestors. Does that make? I don't know if that makes sense, but it basically means that like it's not like exclusionary. It's more inclusive. Just the way the story is told, it's focused on Japan and the imperial family, because the Kojiki and the Nihon Shoki were written as political books, or like as books by the imperial family to show the like imperial history of Japan and Japan's rulers, like what gives them the right to rule. That's the purpose, the main purpose of these books, but also like keeping old stories and like mythologies and like oral histories and oral traditions. So it's very complicated like that, but it wasn't meant to be like exclusionary, because especially if they're showing these contents to like other rulers in China and in Korea, it would have been really like disrespectful to assert that only Japan is divine. So it kind of came with the implication that like, yes, this is like our divine lineage, but you guys have your own divine lineages and your own mythologies and your own stories and your own cultural like heroes and emperors and empresses. So it's kind of like Japan is just explaining their side, but it wasn't meant to be like exclusionary. I hope that makes sense. But of course, like, in the Meiji era, it kind of got more intense, especially with like, the Empire of Japan and things like that. But before that time, it was more just like the idea that like everyone kind of has that divine lineage and divine ancestry, but the imperial family specifically is connected to Amaterasu Omikami-sama. Like that's their clans or like families, ancestors. But even if other people aren't like descended from Amaterasu Omikami-sama, they're still descended from other kami-sama, if that makes sense. So I hope that explained it a little bit. It's very brief. I could go on forever about it, but we do have limited time. But I hope I could explain it briefly. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm glad it could explain. Thank you. But yes. So yeah, the Ninamisei is related to all that, and it's very important. And so officially, like only only the emperor really does the Ninamisei, but I did see like recently like other jinja kind of celebrate the Ninamisai like to kind of support him in the ceremony and to also pray together with him. And I think that's really good too. But like it's not like a requirement, but I've seen other shrines start to do it to kind of like support him. So it's good. Like I think it depends on the shrine and like the connection also as well, and which kami-sama they worship. Like I'm assuming shrines to Amaterasu Omikami-sama will definitely do like a Ninamisai. But like, for example, like maybe other shrines won't because they like it's more like an imperial ceremony to give thanks for the harvest. So yeah. But all shrines will do autumn grand ceremony for the same purpose of giving thanks for the harvest and to pray for the next 6 months or the winter and autumn season to go well and go safely. And sorry, but like the reason that it's really important about rice. So let's get into that. So why rice and why is rice so important and why is rice so sacred and all these things. And this is kind of where my original thought is coming to form, where like honestly like a lot of Shinto traditions and ceremonies are revolving around food and rice. And then I honestly like how this kind of came to connect to me for Konko Faith, because of course like the founder of Konko Faith was a rice farmer. So like all of this kind of comes together. And also like, we have Goshinmai at our Hiromai and things like that. So the thing is is that like so in Japan, like in the country, the climate and the landscape here, it's very mountainous. So like it's very hard. So not only is it very mountainous, but the soil I heard is like very acidic. I'm pretty sure I heard like it's acidic. So basically it's hard to grow things, especially grains. So rice is one of the crops and the grains that can grow and do well, really, really well in Japan's climate. And we have other grains here like barley and wheat. Wheat can grow here, but it doesn't really propagate as much, especially because like there's not a lot of big like open fields, and if there is a lot of big open fields, they're very like wetlands. They're not really like dry, and the soil composition is not really friendly to the other grains. So that means like the very limited farming space in the country is only really suitable for rice the most, like rice farming. So in other words, that means like in order to survive on this country, on this land, rice was super important because it was the only grain that could, like staple grain, I mean, that could be grown in large quantities for a large amount of people. And it was something that could be stored over the harsher, colder months. So, let me read Vadim San's comment. I was a little surprised when I was reading that old Konko book about Goshinmai. And at the end is a story about Amaterasu Umikami and other kami-sama from Kojiki. Oh, that's so interesting. Yes, maybe it relates to the story about how she taught rice farming. Because in Issei faith as well, like rice is so important, and like rice farming and harvest. So maybe it's connected to that. But I'd love to see the passage if you have time. So But like, we can discuss. I love to see like in the Discord, or if you have time, but no pressure. So yeah, I am really curious. But yes, so yeah, so just I want to emphasize like this was the only crop that could really sustain a people, and like of course like root vegetables could grow like daikon, and I'm trying to think of native root vegetables because I don't think potatoes were in Japan in ancient times, and not sweet potatoes because those are from the New World. So I think it was like daikon, turnips, and like ginger, but like nothing like it wasn't like there wasn't like stuff like potatoes or like sweet potatoes or like corn. Those were all kind of more New World and like with import. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if I'm wrong. Please correct me, because I'm just trying to remember the history. But with rice, you could make like mochi, and mochi even lasts even longer than like loose grain rice. And not only that, but like mochi is also kind of more strong against like pests, because pests are also a big problem, like mice and sparrows and like uh, bugs like weevils like would go into the rice, and like it would ruin everything. So it was like really bad. So that was also really dangerous. So like mochi kind of like making mochi kind of protected the rice, and you could still eat it. So it protected it from like going bad or like pests, but you could also use it. Like you could eat it, like cut it up and like cook it and things like that. So that's why like in wintertime there's always like a mochitsuki, like a mochi making party, because it's like tradition to make mochi for like New Year's, to give thanks because it was kind of like a celebration, but also to have some mochi for the winter time and like have a stock of it. Okay, thank you so much, Ray. Yes, last time I went over way too much, so I'm trying to like be more careful with time. Williamson says it was just really kind of out of place, like really Konko text, and then suddenly Amaterasu Omikami and something something. Oh my gosh, I'm not sure. It might be related to like the traditional understanding, um, like how it said that she brought rice farming to Japan, perhaps. But we have to see the book to make the right assessment. Aya-san says, also, hi, welcome. I would say it also shows respect to the people who work in the creation of the food that everyone eats. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so the ceremonies are not just for the food itself, but also towards the farmers, to the people who harvest, to all the work that goes in during the harvest season, because it's a lot of work. Like, we're like in modern times, a lot of us are detached from farming and farm work, but like I've talked to some farmer friends I met, and like here in Japan, and it's just a lot of work to like plant the rice, harvest it, grow it, protect it from pests. It's a lot. So I'm thankful to Kami-sama that everything went well. But yeah, so yes, so get rice was very important for like the survival of the people, and the thing is too is that rice itself needs a lot of things to grow and like thrive. So not only was it like the type of soil, but you need like lots of rain. Like you need those, like wet rice needs like the little pond of water for them to grow. They need a lot of water. And modern times, yeah, we have like waterworks and stuff, but like you need that like rainy season. You need the moisture in the air for like the rice to survive. Otherwise, it's like it can't grow. And so it needs the rain, it needs the soil, it needs the sun as well to grow, of course. And not only during the growing season, but during the harvest season, the rice needs time to dry properly in the sun, because if it doesn't dry properly, it will like mold and rot. At least that's what I heard. So the drying part is also really important. So like it's important to pray like in the autumn time, like for the rain to kind of like settle down and like have like those really sunny days for the rice to properly dry and then be able to like remove the husk and everything, because that's also a really important part of the process. So we need the sun, the water, the rain, the soil, and like even the ecosystem in the rice paddy, like for example, like frogs will live in rice paddies, but they're important because they eat the pests, like they eat the little bugs that will eat the rice. So frogs are really important, and like the other little critters, like the whole little ecosystem that is dwelling within the rice field is also very important. So like the idea is that like all the forces of nature kind of come together in like a connection, like interconnection, to have the rice grow. And even humans, like humans are in this interconnection because we're like watching the rice, maintaining it, planting, harvesting. So like all of nature kind of comes together. And even like we talked about a few, like last time, I think it was in the meeting, but like even for example, like bigger predators of the rice, like for example deer or boar, like there's been stories sometimes they'll come to like eat the rice that's growing, but then like other animals, like historically the wolf or like the foxes will like kind of drive away these animals, but they also eat those animals. So again, it's like the whole ecosystem interconnection, everything is coming together around the rice fields. Another important thing is even like thunderstorms, like thunder and lightning was also extremely important to the rice growing process. And now we know why scientifically is because thunder and lightning like ionizes the air, and that gives nutrients to the soil to help it grow stronger and better. But back then, like all that detail, it wasn't so concrete, but they did know by observing is that when there was a lightning and thunderstorm, that the rice grew stronger. So they connected, like the people back then, they connected thunderstorms, lightning makes the rice grow stronger. So, that's also why like lightning is also very connected to the divine in Shinto, because it's also connected to the growth of rice. So like everything kind of comes together when you start to think about the process of rice farming in Japan. And because everything comes together, it's like emblematic or like very symbolic of the Gao Yoruzu no Kami, that like all the kami-sama like come together to have this blessing happen and give to us people and like other creatures and everything. And again, like it's often said that there's no competition between the kami-sama because they all work together. And this is like emblematic of that, because like imagine if like the sun was like arguing with the rain clouds, like saying like no, like I'm more important than you, or they're all fighting, and then nothing can grow, nothing can happen. But because they all work together and because they're all important, like everything is important, and then that's why the rice can grow. So the rice is like emblematic of this like whole connection, and it's like an important reminder of it too. There's like we can't just like think of the sun is more important than the rain clouds, or like the rain is more important than the soil, or like the thunder is more important than the frogs. Like no, because everything comes together. Because even if the thunder grows the rice higher, if there's pests eating the rice, like if there's the bugs eating the rice, then like there's no like everything will come down again. So everything has to come together, you know. And Innocent says, I'm always impressed by how observant the people were in olden times. Yes, yes. I think especially because they like that was their like everyday life. And I feel like the same way we kind of notice stuff like about our daily lives, our little stuff, uh, our modern life. so very disconnected, from nature. Like even me, like I work in the shrine, but I don't go into the rice field every day, sadly. And I live in the city. I live in Yokosuka City, so I'm a little bit more away from it. But back then, like that was their everyday life, and that was their livelihood. So yeah, they would notice these things more. Um, Akai Hana says, one of my big fascinations is the similarities of indigenous religions very nearly globally. Yes, me too. That is definitely another discussion to have, because like there's so many similarities and like cross cultural connections, and I don't know, it kind of moves me. I think it's like like the true connection people like humanity have with the divine and like the world around us. I think when that true connection happens, like we'll see the same truth repeating no matter where in the world or what peoples. Like it's the same truth and connection we have with nature and the divine. So yeah, I like it a lot. Thank you so much. But yes. So yeah, that's what rice is very like emblematic of. And on top of all that, it was also connected to people's survival, like as we mentioned. And as we know, like Shinto places a big emphasis on life, like life giving and eternal life in a way, like eternal life as in like like vitality, not like away from like things that make something like decay or rot, but like even if there's decay or rot, it's about like burning that away and then renewing it. So it's always about like renewal. That's what I wanted to say. Renewal and life that comes back. So, rice, like eating the rice for the people perpetuates that life cycle. So it's like very important for those reasons. And for example, like when after people harvested the rice, they would have like the leftover rice straw. And that's kind of like where the shimenawa came from too, like the sacred rice rope, because it would be like a leftover blessing you don't want to waste. So people would make rope from it and then hang it up to kami-sama. Um, I know that like some sources say that it was like a barrier or like a protection, like a sealing away from like kami-sama, because of like sometimes they were scary, like their power was too much. So like it's a way to keep a distance between people and kami, because kami-sama's power is so strong. But not only is it kind of like emblematic of that like respectful distance, but it's also an offering to kami-sama and gratitude. Like people crafted the rice straw as an offering of gratitude for the rice harvest. So it's kind of like a double meaning like that. And the reason that the shide like paper is like the zigzag paper, I don't know, let's see if I can draw it, but the reason it's like that shape is because of the rice thing I mentioned as well, like how the lightning grows the rice stronger. So like for example, like here's the shimenawa shape, and it's like based off the lightning. This is like this is like a cartoony lightning bolt, but the same kind of like the way lightning kind of zigzags like that. The shide is based off that form, or so I've researched, and it kind of all comes together in that as well, like the shimenawa and like the rice straw, because it kind of goes back to the harvest, like offering the leftover straw from the harvest in gratitude to a good harvest. Because if your harvest was bad, you wouldn't have enough straw. But when the harvest is good, you have a lot of straw. So you can make a rope from it and offer that rope. And then the lightning shide is also like a symbolic way to show gratitude to the lightning, which helped grow the rice stronger. And additionally, that paper that shide is made from is, I believe, rice paper as well. At least back then. Now I know it's like you can use any kind of paper, but I'm pretty sure back then it was like rice paper. So it kind of all connects like that. using all parts of the rice plant, not just the grain to eat, but the straw and the other fibers of it to make other materials is also really important. And giving gratitude to Kami-sama for that blessing. And so it all kind of connects like that. And that is the reason, going back to your comment, just in fact, yeah, like going back to your comment, that's why rice is so sacred, because of this emblem, because it's emblematic of the Yaoyoras and Okami-sama working together, because it provides survival and food, because it represents like also people coming together, being healthy enough to harvest the rice. So it's like good health, Kami-sama working together, blessings of life, making many materials as well, and also like a gift from the Kami-sama. So there's like so many things that come connected and centered around rice, in Japanese culture and spiritual religious culture as well, that it became so like central to like their rituals and worship. And that's why, like, no matter the faith of the shrine or the jinja, all of them will do a spring grand ceremony for the planting and the autumn grand ceremony for the harvesting, because all of them understand the importance, no matter the faith, of all the, again, like it's again like all the yaoyos and Okami-sama coming together and working together and giving thanks for these blessings that help sustains people's life, that helps our survival, that helps us make and craft things for our survival. Like everything's just connected like this. I hope I could explain that well. Magina-san says, and it wasn't anything concrete, just intuition. Ah, yes, exactly. Like it's very like deep like this. And yeah, that's also why there's that traditional saying that like every grain of rice has like multiple kami-sama in it, because of how like divine or like sacred and how symbolic and like spiritual feeling that this crop can means to the Japanese people and Japanese culture. And like I think not only just like if you had like Japanese DNA or things like that, but if you like lived on this land and that was something you relied on the most, that is like really important to show respect to this land and landscape and unique features of this land. So like I wanted to mention just briefly, like for example, when we offer rice to Kami-sama and the altar, like in our altar, the rice is actually this like in the middle between the sake bottles, which are called heishi. And also sake is made from rice too. I forgot about that. But yeah, sake as well is also very important and made from rice. But in the middle there's like a white and red bag. And inside that paper bag is like the rice offering. And it's like the highest position. It's the most important position. So that's also emblematic of showing the importance of rice. And when I do ceremonies, sometimes I've done ceremonies overseas. And if there's no rice, I offer the country's equivalent of what rice means to Japan. So, like, for example, in Europe, like wheat is very important. Wheat is that staple grain and important grain that has made generations of people survive through harsh winters, through famine. So when I went to do a ceremony in Scotland, for example, there was no rice in the grocery stores locally, and I can't bring rice on the plane. So I actually offered some bread made from the wheat, as emblematic of this important grain of the land that sustained people's lives for generations. And I've seen like other shrines, like in San Marino, Jinja, they've offered like pasta, and it's not silly, but because pasta is also made from wheat, and it also has been a staple that has sustained people's lives for generations and is very important for survival. So that same meaning is not just limited to Japan, but it can be understood across the world as well. Every culture and people have their own staple grains that has sustained our lives and brought us to survive through harsh weather and harsh winters. So I think it's important to give thanks to that fact. It's just that in Japan, other grains couldn't grow as strong. So rice was like the grain. It was like the wheat of Japan. So that's why it was really important. So let me read the comments. Olivia Sensei, I wonder if there are any teachings that were passed by the Kyoshi of Yokosuka Kyokai. I know that many Kyoshi from different Kyokai received their teachings and wrote books. Oh, thank you so much. Actually, now that I think about it, I think there is some teachings. I'll have to ask Masafumi Sensei. But if there are some teachings, I haven't really come across them as much. I know we have a history book. We have with like pictures and things like that, but it doesn't really talk about teachings in them. It just kind of more explains the history. But that is a good question, and I will ask Masafumi Sensei. Just I haven't heard of any. Unfortunately, I do know the stories of the founding senseis and like their backgrounds and everything in their lives. But unfortunately, particular teachings at the moment, I don't know. I'm sorry, but that is a good question, and I will keep it in mind for the next live stream, and I'll answer you then at the next stream on Tuesday. So thank you so much. And Visa says no rice at the store. Wow. Yes. There was no rice at the store because we were in like rural Scotland, like not rural, but like outside of the big cities, and it was like a small town, and there was just the basic. There was like only one grocery store we could really walk to. I'm sure there was a bigger one we could drive to, but it was difficult to find the time and manage because the offerings have to be fresh. So I was like, oh my gosh, we got to get something fresh. And this local store was very small, so they only had the very basics of usual food people eat. And I was like, where's the rice? I can't find any rice. And I think they had like instant rice, but I was like, I don't know. But so I just thought bread would be more appropriate, especially like, it's not, the important thing is not to give an offering just because it's like, that's what you do. For example, like, oh, I need to offer rice because rice is offered. Like, it's not like that. The important thing is that like why is the rice offered and what is the meaning behind it, to kami-sama, to the divine, and finding the appropriate equivalent to that meaning. So in this case, the appropriate equivalent would have been like the staple grain of the region, which was like wheat. So you can offer it in exchange. And same thing. A lot of people ask about sakaki, the tree, because sakaki trees don't grow really in a lot of places. But that's why a lot of people can offer their like local and native evergreen species in exchange because the meaning is the same. Like the evergreen tree represents, renewal, life, and eternity of the soul as well, like eternal life of the Mitama no Kami and Kami-sama. So the evergreen symbolism and meaning can still be carried forward, even if it's not sakaki, even if it's just another native evergreen tree. So it's kind of like that same importance is not on the thing itself, but on the meaning behind it is really important. And so Video says a history book. Oh, I would love to read one day. Yes. Yeah, it's so good. I think we have some more copies. Maybe I can send you one. I'll have to ask Masuri Sensei. But yeah, it's very easy to read too. It's not like a thick. It's like a very thin. It's like this thin, and there's pictures and a timeline. And it's really nice. It's a really good book. So yeah. But yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so really quickly is that I did want to say like, in regard to Konko Faith is that like, I kind of began to realize this importance of rice and the symbolism and meaning, especially when I read like the biography of Koko Daijin, because he was a rice farmer, And there was a lot of things I wasn't familiar with in terms of rice farming. But when I read his life story and like his daily struggles as a rice farmer, like for example, like dealing with the weevils or like dealing with like crop failure and pests and things like that, I began to understand more clearly, like not just like logically, like, oh yeah, people had to rely on kami-sama because it was so unpredictable. Like that's the logical understanding. But I guess like I understood it more like on a personal level, like a more deeper level, that there was so many variables and it was so like uncertain that the rice could even grow or could even be harvested. And when it can't be harvested, like what do you do? Because like everyone was like people are relying on the harvest to feed them because there's no grocery stores, there's no like food import, there's nothing. So like that's all they had. And I guess it kind of hit me like that's why like having faith in kami-sama and like being close to kami-sama was so important. Um, you know, to like in terms of like a person's daily life, because like nowadays I feel like we're so food secure, and not all of us are having a farm in terms of like the farm will secure our food. Like a lot of us, like we can garden for food or like have a little like homestead or like a farm to kind of make some extra money, but it's not our like main source of food security as it was back then. So I could like logically understand it like in my head, but I couldn't like feel it like I couldn't understand like the feeling of fear and like uncertainty and fear of your survival really deeply until I started to read like the personal accounts of Konko Daijin who lived in that time. Because like even if farmers in the modern time or even like around the industrial era, like they had their struggles, but it's a little like different now because if a farmer doesn't get crops now, it's hard because he won't get money. But if he has savings, he can eat. He can go to the grocery store and he can feed the family. But if there's no savings, if there's no grocery store, there's no nothing, and it was only that what you had on the farm, like that's scary. Like I couldn't like comprehend that, especially back then when I was like 18. Like I was like I'm so used to like Canadian life, but like then I understood more, and then I understood like over time more deeper, like why people had such strong faith in kami-sama, because their lives were so connected to the workings of kami-sama. Like they're like my like our survival is connected to nature and kami-sama so much more deeper than it is now. I mean, it still is now, but we're kind of more distanced from it, if that makes sense, because of the way the world has been structured in modern times. I mean, it's something to be thankful for, of course, because it's a lot like, well, you know how it is. Like it's complicated, right? But it's different, and there's ways to get food, like even food banks and food pantries and soup kitchens. There's ways, but back then they didn't have that. So it kind of really hit me like that, and it made me realize like why all these ceremonies are so centered around the harvest season. So redeem senses. I think that right now we are not in the era when we face food shortages, because a lot of food is grown nowadays, but it is unevenly distributed, shared. Exactly. And that's what makes it all the more like horrible, because I know the time is, I have to go sleep, but I just really want to say this because like how many generations of people suffered when all they had to rely on was the farm, and then there was a bad harvest and they had to go through famine, and how many generations of people across the world had to go through that suffering to get where we are now. And now we have the ability and technology to grow food more like stably. Like we can even grow food in labs. Like it's crazy, right? But that's what makes it all the more angering and frustrating and like upsetting, is because we have this technology and this growth, and then people are still starving because of what? I don't know, greed. Like it's just crazy. Sorry, I'm getting passionate, but like, you know what I mean? Like it's just really angering because like we have so much, and like so much food and so many things, and then people are still starving, and it's so difficult for me to wrap my head around. And I understand like I understand the process of like capitalism and like making profits, and like everyone has to like make money and things like that. But even so, I don't think that means people should go starving and go hungry and like have food shortages and have to suffer when there's plenty to go around, and it's just like really angry. and and it's like it feels so scary to me. And like not only are like we so disconnected from kamisama in this way, like from nature and kamisama, but like it's also like even worse because we're like, not we like us here, but like society, like there's this disconnection. But also it's like we're not even using this technology and blessings to help others and who are really in need. And something about that feels so, I can't comprehend it. Like I genuinely can't comprehend why it's like this. I know logically, but I can't understand like as a person, like as a human being. Like I genuinely cannot come to comprehend this. But yeah, Vadim-san says, thank you so much for today, Olivia Sensei, and everyone. It was really nice to hear for you. I have to go for now. Okay, yes, have a good night. And thank you so much for coming and asking so many good questions. Thank you. And I should go soon too, but if anyone has any more comments or questions before we go, please let me know. I would love to hear them, and if anything, to talk about more. But I think for the next stream, I'll talk about like some teachings from our Yokosuka Kyokai. And there was something else I want to talk about, but I can't remember now. But I'll try to remember for next time. Oh, thank you, Aya-san. It was so great hearing from you too. Thank you. Yes, I'm glad to see you here because we don't get a lot of chances to talk. But thank you so much for coming. Yes. But yeah. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. It helps a lot because I'm not used to streaming and everything. So I'm slowly getting used to it more, slowly improve more. But for now, your support means so much, and I'm super thankful. So thank you so much, everyone. Akai Hane says, thank you. I just joined the Discord last night. This was very good. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. And yes, please feel free to ask anything more. Terrence says, thank you. I can't get my head around it either. Oh no, thank you so much. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I hope we can change things soon in the future. And I guess thank you so much, Rai. And thank you so much, Rai-san. Thank you so much, Ineza-san. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I really appreciate it. Yes. So I'll see you guys next Tuesday, my time. So yes, okay. See you for now. I hope you have a good day, good night, or whatever time it is there. Okay, okay. Bye now. Thank you. Okay, bye. Take care.